Peace, 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 and welcome to the collision where sports and politics collide. I'm Atan Thomas. Dave Zirin is doing big things overseas, so he's going to tell y'all all about it when he comes back. We have a great show for you today. Later on, we're going to have Dr. Angel Jones, PhD. She has a lot that she wants to talk about, and it's going to be great. But Chuck, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Atan?
I'm doing good. So let's start off with this because I've been watching last night. The news broke that Jimmy Fallon had been fired, and I'm fired. Indefinite suspension, whatever. And I looked at the clip of what he said, and I was like, that wasn't too much. Is there a different clip? Did I miss something? I was expecting him to go full. Samuel L. Jackson in A Time to Kill about you. But I was like, that's all? Help me out. What was your response when you saw that he was indefinitely suspended?
Well, I'm still stuck on full Samuel L. Jackson in A Time to Kill. I hope he burns in hell. Seeing Dave Chappelle do that bit.
Yeah.
I can almost say the same that I would say with every single person who has been given fake outrage or been fired with regards to comments on Charlie Kirk. There's nothing there. There's really nothing there. And when you start to peel back critics, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel or others who say words about Charlie Kirk, they almost say their comments. They always say their comments, what they said. And I'm going down. I'm saying I don't see anything wrong. Or you're talking about things and you're saying, where's the lie? So I think what we're really dealing with is a hysteria. We're dealing with a national hysteria, and a national hysteria that has been completely manipulated, that has been not based in any type of truth. To Charlie Kirk's this great Christian, without saying great Christian things. He's being whitewashed. We are seeing pictures of him alongside MLK and Malcolm X. I mean, it's mind-boggling, but we have to understand that we can't use regular reason right now. That we have to understand that this is a concerted effort to make Charlie Kirk a martyr, to pass laws, to get people fired, to change the culture. And we know, as someone, the collision who uses sports and talks about sports on a platform to change popular culture, we know that's what they're doing. If they could get popular culture, then they could change politics themselves. So, Jimmy Kimmel in many ways is just one casualty of that. But, I think the final thing I want to say is corporations also follow culture. And during the 2020 Black Lives Matter uprising, we were seeing Black Lives Matter signs all over the place. And then there were these questions. Oh, does Target say, I'm picking Target for a reason, does Target care about Black lives? And the answer was always, of course they don't, but they do care about selling their products. So when you change culture, they felt it was good to put Black Lives Matter in their advertisements, to hire more Black people with intentionality, knowing that Black people are discriminated against. And then we come to this other new era, this quote unquote, and I hate the term, anti-woke era, and we're seeing the same corporations now are doing an about face, that are embracing white supremacy and white supremacists openly because it will sell their product. So we have to be clear, corporations only follow the dollar, and that we have to create an environment that they will follow a dollar associated with justice.
So is it this that that segment of society that agrees with everything that Charlie Kirk stood for, that they wrap around all of his hateful rhetoric, and they hold on to it like a warm blanket, that society, that group, that demographic is a much larger number than we maybe anticipated or that we think? Because if they're as much of a large enough number to move the needle on what corporations do, then that means that the opposition has to be even louder.
That's correct? Right. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. The opposite has to be louder because you have manipulators, right? The manipulator in chief is Donald Trump, who less than 24 hours after Charlie Kirk was murdered was blaming the left. You didn't even have a suspect. You didn't even know who it was. And then you hear Stephen Miller, and you hear J.D. Vance and you hear all the talk show hosts. You don't even know who the suspect is. How can you possibly lay blame? So we know right off of the bat, starting with the president of the United States and so many others, Charlie Kirk's death was used to manipulate masses, not find out who actually the killer is. And, there's a whole conversation about that. I'm not convinced that this Tyler Robinson is acting alone. But what we're talking about is manipulation. And then there are masses who don't know what's going on, who follow the narrative, don't have time to look at the details of what was actually said by Jimmy Kimmel or anyone else. And since I'm here, I didn't say it at the top. I will say what Jimmy Kimmel said. He said the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them doing everything they can to score political points on it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he calls a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish. You're speaking about Donald Trump, of course. And I don't see anything that's like wrong there or inaccurate there. He would be 100% accurate about Trump's behavior right after Charlie Kirk. And it's very dangerous behavior because it is swaying the masses and it does impact policies. And Stephen Miller and Trump is talking about how now they need to go after protesters of all varieties, those who are against police. When you look at everything they're latching on, and we don't even know that much about Tyler Robinson. I am not giving up on the fact that Tyler Robinson could be a far-right groyper. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not giving up on the fact, without more investigation, that there may be a tie to Israel. I'm not giving up on the fact that maybe it's tied to Epstein. We don't like Charlie Kirk because he says a lot of bigoted things. But the truth is, he has a whole spectrum of enemies because he was poking some serious bears that include Jeffrey Epstein and the fear that he may sway and turn a little bit on Israel as a former really strong supporter. So this should have been framed as a whodunit from the beginning. And instead of being framed as a whodunit and showing the spectrum of his enemies, including other white nationalists, it was framed as the left did this. And that's the problem.
But now we're at a point where they don't even want you talking about it. They don't want you even discussing it. We're going to talk about it later with Dr. Angel Jones. But we're going to talk about the Washington Post journalist.
Karen
Attiah, right, who was fired from the Washington Post because she literally quoted him. She quoted directly what Charlie Kirk said about Black women. Why would a Black woman not respond to that or discuss it? And she is so right now we're getting to the point where they don't even want you to quote him. And when you're and people are getting fired for actually quoting him.
Yeah.
That's so if you can get fired and it's considered hate speech or whatever the reason why you're getting fired for quoting somebody, why isn't what they actually said considered hate speech?
Hey, listen, that's a great question. It's not considered a hate speech what he said because their army is saying fake news. We've seen this before. Fake news. Trump's MO is fake news. Shoot the messenger figuratively and say that's not true. And anyone, even it's not true when your own quotes defy what is being said. So we're in this time of hysteria now, and hysteria times are very scary because hysteria leads to laws and quick laws in quick fashion. So we have to be clear about that, and we have to, butt up against everything that they're doing. Show facts. So if you say political violence is coming from the left, and I saw J.D. Vance went on a tirade yesterday, well, we have to show the stats that, close to 70% of all political violence is right-wing, comes from white supremacists. It was a white supremacist who killed all those individuals at the AMA church, Emmanuel AMA church. It was a white supremacist who killed those individuals at the Pittsburgh synagogue back in 2018. When you really look at what's happening, it's white supremacists. But now they are trying to erase actual facts and distort what Charlie Kirk is about.
I mean, it's just interesting that you see all the number of people, and I posted a meme about this. You saw all the number of people who had actual attempts on President Obama, actual attempts on his life.
Yeah.
And not once did the Democratic Party paint the entire Republican Party as the terrorists, as the ones who are not once. No, And these were all right-wing, extreme right-wing conservatives who listed the specific reasons of why that they felt that, you know, Obama was whatever the reason, antichrist, he was anti, you know, whatever they labeled him as. And that didn't happen. And it's just interesting seeing how the right, they're waiting, like they were hoping that whoever pulled the trigger on Charlie Kirk, whoever was going to be pinned for it, was going to be black or Muslim or of some demographic where they could say, oh, now this is a declaration of war. This is a civil war. And then when they found out who it actually was or who they're placing the blame on, now all of a sudden the Civil War is canceled. No more Civil War, no more alarm, no more anything else. Move on to the next subject. And it's just that preparing for war. So even in, you know, Jimmy Fallon being you know, suspended indefinitely, they want to control a narrative. And they want the narrative to be that everyone is against them and they're under attack. And now they have to be, and it's really, I don't know if people really understand how dangerous of a place that we are right now. And it seems to be ramping up, not going the opposite way. I had somebody tell me that the Charlie Kirk topic is going to be, you know, dead and gone in a few days. I'm like, no, it's not. This is just the beginning.
That person doesn't know what they're talking about. You know, I do a lot of study of right wingers. I covered rallies, not just Charlottesville, but before that. So I try to understand how white supremacists think. There's a group of white supremacists, the Nick Fuentes Groyper Army, that has been against Charlie Kirk for a very long time. There's splits in the white supremacist movement as well. There are people who would certainly have wanted him dead within the white nationalist movement as well. And, you know, these things aren't being reported, and most people don't actually know about these things. What we have to be clear on is what you just said, and that is the Charlie Kirk story is dangerous, and as dangerous as any story. I might differ a little bit that they moved on. I don't think they moved on. I think they pivoted. They went from this person, they were hoping he'd be black, certainly Muslim, but now that he's white and he has a conflicting story, he has two Republican parents who taught him how to use a rifle. You see pictures of the child with him in an NRA cap. So I wonder when Trump or Vance says we're going to go after organizations that led to this, are they talking about the NRA? No, I don't think they're talking about the NRA. But the NRA and his gun-loving parents, if he did it, by the way, let him hone those skills to take a shot from over 200 yards away to pull that off. Now, I've heard many actual like military individuals who doubt that he took that shot or doubt that he acted alone. So I think what should happen is a lot of patience. And even if their narrative, which turned to, yes, he was a right winger and he went to apprenticeship electrician school for a semester and was radicalized there, that narrative is selling. And it's a ridiculous narrative. And then they're using anti-trans language. And, you know, we're not going to get all the way into it, but we know it's BS, but we know it's working. So there has to be a counter narrative, and that people have to be fighting the battle of media narratives. That's important, and that's what we do.
100%. 100%. That's why I love what we do here on the Collision where Sports and Politics Collide on WPFW.
But your friend is wrong, Atan. I cannot tell you how much your friend is wrong. These people who think this is going to blow over, they're not studying what's actually happening. And what's happening is a big groundswell to martyr Charlie Kirk and come out and distort his actual true memory.
100%. 100%. I think people are hoping that it blows over.
Yeah,
like
they're wrong.
Hoping that the topic of Mayor Bowser blows over. Yeah. They're hoping that we move along from something else. The same person that told me the thing about Mayor Bowser. That's why I included that topic. But you know, let's take a break. Let's take a breather, and we're gonna come back with more on the Collision where Sports and Politics Collide.
Charlie was